server-side application. So how we can configure and create an API. So creating application, and after creating application, configuring the request methods for handling CRUD operations, we need get, post, put, delete like actions to perform. And we need to learn how to communicate with the database. So let's see how we can do that. So what we are going to do now, how to communicate with the backend database using API. That is the concept. So yesterday we created a server-side application. Let's open that app. So our server-side application, we added that application just in our API here itself. A React TypeScript app, right? So in this we added a API.js file, and in that all the business logic is written. And here we are having only the API request methods, because just to understand here how routing works, I given a point. Now let's see how an API business logic can communicate with the database, how it connects with the database. So we will see about MongoDB connection with API, MongoDB connection with APIs. How we can handle the MongoDB connection with API. So what our API must able to do is communicate with MongoDB database. For that, what we need, yesterday we learned that we need a database driver. A driver's library is required to communicate with any database. So first point is you need to install MongoDB database drivers library. You have to install MongoDB database drivers library, which already we done in our last session. So npm install MongoDB and save. In our project, we need to set up the MongoDB database drivers. So first we need to understand how to connect with the APIs. So after that, you have to import Mongo client class. You have to import Mongo client class from MongoDB. You have to import MongoDB Mongo client class from MongoDB drivers. So what we need to do is we need to create a Mongo client is equal to import is done by using require method. Require MongoDB In this MongoDB module, we have a class called Mongo client. That is the class name. Actually, MongoDB module provides client libraries, server libraries also. Server libraries are used for server administration. Client libraries are used for connecting with database, interacting with the data. All such actions are required by using this client. So we need a client library. We have to import Mongo client library. So we need the client library, Mongo client library. So once we done with the Mongo client library, now what we have to do, connect to MongoDB server using connection string. How do we connect to MongoDB server is we have to use Mongo client dot connect, Mongo client dot connect. So Mongo client dot connect. So, and we need to communicate with the connect. Connect is a method. It is expecting connection string. Connection string. It is expecting a connection string. We need to define a connection string. Actually, in a previous version, these methods are callback methods. Callback methods means after defining connection string, a success function will execute. That means a callback function will work. But now recently they changed from callback to promises. That means they changed the library from callback to promise. You know, callbacks are synchronous and promises are asynchronous. Many JavaScript libraries recently changed themselves from a callback to promise. That is the reason earlier what we have to do is we need to use a callback function here. But now because it is a promise, generally promise have what? Then promise have what? Then promise have catch, promise have finally. Very recently they changed from callbacks to promises. So earlier we used to write a callback function after connection string. Now we need to write a promise. We need to write a promise. We need to write a promise. Through the promise, we can communicate. What then is a call function that executes when the connection is successful. So here what happens is then method uses uses a function that returns client object which is responsible for communicating with the database on server. Then uses a function that returns client object which is responsible for communicating with database on server. First, connecting with database is done by connect. Once the connection is successful, then communicating with the database on that connection is done by this then. That means actually Mongo client have a connect method. This connect method uses a connection string You know MongoDB connection string 127.0.1.2.7.0.1.7. So this uses dot then, actually that is dot then, and it's a function. This function is going to this function is going to return a client object. And this client object can access the database present in the server. That means we can create a database object. The client object can use DB method and can access the database name. That means which database you want to communicate. We can access the database. So connect method will connect with the server. Once connection is successful, then it will return a client object. Through that client object, you can communicate with any database in the server. And how to communicate with any database in the server? By using a DB method. DB and database name. Client object, DB method, and database name. The database is loaded into memory. Now what we need to do, we need to access the database with reference of any variable. That means this database we can access with reference of a variable. Any variable name we can give. Now any operation on database is done by this reference. That means what you can do with the database. So with the database object, we can insert data, read the data, update and delete. That means all CRUD operations on data. So database reference will allow to communicate with collection. Will communicate with collections in database. Will allow to communicate with collections in database. That means what you can do, database dot collection and collection name. Collection name means table name. On the table, what you want to do, you want to find, or what you want to do, you want to insert. So this is find. You can insert one, you can update one, delete one, insert many. All these operations you can perform on the collection. Just only few commands I am giving. All these interactions you can do on the database. Right. So to communicate with database, we need this process. So let's see how to do that. Means how we can communicate with the database. Only you want to communicate with the database from a server side technology, then just plain connection you can write. You want to collect the data and send to client, then you have to use API combination. First, we will see how we can normally connect with database. So first we need Mongo client. So we need require from MongoDB. In that we have a class called Mongo client. That is the class. Through Mongo client, we need to use a connect, and connect requires a connection string. Connection string is MongoDB ::127.001:27017. You know the connection string, and a dot then uses a callback, and this function will collect a client object. And what we need to do with the client object? You don't need a parenthesis because only one client object we are using, one parameter. This is a client object. Now what we need to do, we need to create a database reference, and through client object DB method, we can access database. Suppose what I am doing is I am defining the database name, suppose some north wind, something database name. I am giving database name Northwind. Actually, Northwind is very popular database name used by software developers for sample data. It is very famous. It is a database of Microsoft. So software developers knows about this database, which is used by software developers in various situations for understanding the sample operations. If a software developer have to work with some sample data, this is very popular and it is available in even MS Access like software. MS Access is a Microsoft database also. There it is very popular among software developers. Just I used a name of it. But what is the point is here, observe in our MongoDB, this is our MongoDB database. And in this MongoDB database, let's connect. In the databases list, I don't have any database called Northwind. I don't have any database called Northwind. Okay. But I given the name. That means I told you that ORM is a great mechanism where it follows different approaches, which I showed you a flow chart, that ORM technologies will verify, is there any database by this name? If there is no database by this name, then it will create the database. If there is a database, then it will communicate with the database. That's the background algorithm they follow. That's very good. That means you, as I told you, you write the business logic, it will create everything for you. It will create database, it will create collections. You will see that. Suppose I give an Northwind. In Northwind, in the database, we have collections. What is the collection name? Collection name I given as some categories is a collection. Into that categories collection, we want to insert one record. That means what we will do, insert one. Insert one, what is the document? Document is some category ID. Category ID is one and category name. Category name is some electronics like this. You can insert many, you can insert one, and this uses a promise. Earlier, everything was callback. Now everything is a promise. That means it uses a then on success, what function we have to do. We will put a simple message console.log. We will put a message record inserted. Record inserted is the message. We just given a message record inserted. Okay, that is a simple logic we have written. That's it. That means what we are doing is, so we are connecting with the database server. In the database server, we are trying to communicate with the database, but the database is not there. And we are trying to communicate with a collection in the database, which is also not there. We are trying to add some data into it, which is not there. Then what the algorithm ORM follows? So it will follow code first approach. We call this as code first approach. Code first approach means you write the logic. According to your business logic, if data is there, it will communicate. Otherwise, it will create. Let's see. We will run this now. That's it. We are just defining the connect method. So once you define this, let's open the terminal. CD server because our file is present there. And node, what is it? API.js. API.js, now it shows record inserted. But there is no database, nothing, then how it will do that? So let's go to our databases. Let's refresh the databases list. When I refresh, you will see there is a Northwind database created. That's great. And in the Northwind database, automatically there is a categories collection. In the categories collection, there is data also. The data is kept inside it. This is good. This is what ORM is. That means this looks surprising to several people. So like database is created. That means you are not touching the database. With your business logic, you are creating database, you are creating collections, you are adding data into it. This is, people think artificial intelligence, but it is ordinary scaffolding technique, which is there 15 years back. 15 years back, we started this kind of approach, which may be very much trending now. Right? We have this 15 years back, ORM mechanism. It's a very old concept, but this excites new generation people very much. That means many people come and ask, sir, I have heard that in MongoDB, automatically database is created and all. Will you teach it? It's a very simple concept. That's not a great, high, advanced artificial intelligence thing. It's a very basics of ORM. That is what ORM mechanism actually. And it's a very old concept, very, very old concept. And now people are very excited about this, right? That means how it creates everything, how it generates everything. Now people talk about chat GPT, right? I ask something and it will create everything for me and it will give. We have so many such things earlier also, right? So your generation, because not aware of different kind of architectural technologies which are built by developers but not exposed to the outside world, that excites you very much. But internally, people who know this, they already experienced from several years, and we are following this mechanism. Now, next time if I run this, will it create again? No, it uses an algorithm where it will verify that database is already there, then it will use it. That means if I run the code again, will it recreate this table again? No. It will communicate with the table. That means the technique of ORM is that. So how do we read the data? So how do we read the data is this time we created a logic to insert and we know that already some data is there. Then this time categories. So what we need to do? Yeah, we need to define the categories. Okay. And the categories, we have to use the command find. What the find command is going to do? Empty query. Empty query means it is going to read all the records. So then on successful, what it is going to do? On successful, what it is going to do? So on successful, I will remove this. Right. On successful, what it is going to do? It is going to collect all the documents. When find command is successful, it will return all the documents. Just print those documents, console.log. What is it? Documents. Now you see the same command this time. Okay, I will run the command again. This time it is going to read the data and display the data. That means here we are having collection name. We haven't given the collection name. Collection name is given. Anything mistake we done? So find is not having a promise. That means something dot find. Okay. And find uses a query. And what it is going to do, let's use database dot collection. Collection name is what? Categories dot find. Find empty, and it is going to use then is not a function. So find is returning all the data. Um, Find is returning the data in a JSON form. So we will use to array. To array is nothing but it will read the data coming from the find, and the to array is having then function. That means this is the then, because whatever data comes, we need to convert into object or array, and this then will collect all the documents, and we need to return those documents after converting into array. So what is it? Console.log. Console.log, what we have to do? Documents. Okay, let's run this and see. So API.js, it is going to run those and display those documents. That means you have the document here. That means we are able to read the document and we are able to present the document. So generally, how we can handle interaction with the database. So if database is there, it will communicate. If it is not there, it will create everything for you. That is the approach it follows. First, just an example I will give here. This is an example I am giving. That is one simple example for the code. So API.js. But here we haven't written all the API logic, just we learnt about one small point. That means how connection works, we have seen this. Now we will create the API. That means let's see how to create a complete API to communicate with the database. If database is already there, reading the data, inserting, updating, deleting, all operations how to perform. So let's create the complete API for that. So to do that, we need a database. Already we have a database. We will create one database. So here I am creating database. You learned commands, but we already learned that without commands also we can create through GUI mode. For speed up the work, I am creating through here in databases. You have a create new database button. I click on this. I will give the database name as to do React. To do React is the database name. And what is the collection you want? In to do, we will create one collection. So what is the collection you want in this to do? We want two collections. One is users, another one appointments. Appointments means what is our to do application is user can log in and user can watch his appointments, or user we want registration also. That means user can register, user can log in, and he can store appointments, he can view appointments, he can edit appointments, and he can delete appointments. All the CRUD operations we want. So we want one collection to register users. So we will create a collection name called TBL users. TBL users is the collection name. Okay. Create database with a collection. And currently TBL users is empty. It is not having anything. We will initially add some data. We will insert a document, and according to our requirement, we need user ID, which is a string, John NIT something, and username. username is John, and every user have a some email password is some John at the net gmail.com, and every user have a email password is like, so John at the net 1112, that is the password, and this is email. Okay, then we have a mobile, and mobile is some string +91. Okay, that is some mobile number. These are the details we want for a user. So user ID, username, password, email, and mobile. These are the details. Okay, insert one record is added for user. Okay, now we want to communicate with this. That means we want to access the users, insert the user, update the user details, delete the users, all such operations we want to perform. For example, first we will learn how to communicate with this database table, how we can handle the connection with the database table. Next important, we have another table also. We will add another collection. We will add another collection. In the collection, we will have TBL appointments. TBL appointments. Remember, MongoDB is case sensitive. Table name, database name, capitalization matters. You have to give exactly how you defined in the database, right? So TBL appointments, okay. What you want in these appointments? So we want appointment details to be added into this. So that I kept empty. So we have two collections. One is users, another one is appointments. Okay. Now let's go to the logic. Now here we need to create a API to communicate with the database. And remember, here we need to communicate with the database and the client. From client, we are expecting a request that will process and connect with database, get the data and return the data. So what we are going to do here, so we are going to import express, require express. This is to create a middleware, and we need Mongo client. Mongo client is required for to communicate with MongoDB database. So Mongo client, just now we have seen it. And we need another one, course. Course is, so require and course. We have to import this course. So you don't need a course if you are just fetching the data. But when you are submitting the data, updating, deleting, then the cross origin will be blocked. That means across different applications, submitting the data is prevented for security reasons. Enabling CORS will allow it to perform that operation. So we need to use the CORS. So we need three libraries. Already I explained about these three libraries. First, we have to create an app. This is through Express, we are creating a server-side application. That is our API. And this API have to use the CORS. That means this application have to use CORS. So app.use CORS. So if application uses CORS, then it will allow all kind of interactions. That means inserting, updating. Otherwise, only reading is allowed. Inserting, updating, deleting not allowed. So this course enables all the actions so that firewalls will not block, other applications will not block, the data coming and inserting into the application. Okay, one more point is required. Actually, in older versions, usually what happens is we used to use a third party library called body parser. Body parser is a very popular library which is required to convert the client data into JSON. Whatever data goes from server to client, server can send the data to client in JSON. By default, it is JSON. There is no problem. But when data comes from client, because how data is passed by client, data is passed through a form. From a form, client will submit the data. And that form data cannot be inserted directly into database. We have to translate that into JSON. And for that, we need a library called body parser. Earlier, just few months back, we used to use a separate body parser library. But now recently, Express.js internally have that library. That means if you look at the code of database communication few months back, you will find people using a extra library called body parser. But now latest people are not using because latest Express.js internally have that body parser which is responsible for communicating with the client data, converting the client data into JSON. That means we call URL encoding. URL encoding means from client they submit. When that submit, it will be encoded, decoded, encoded into binary form. That binary form data we need to encode into JSON. Whatever data comes from external URL, we have to encode that into JSON. For that, we need a library called body parser, which is now available with Express directly. So what we have to do, we have to write app.use app.use. So we have an option express.url encoded. URL encoded. URL encoded uses an object with a property extended as true. What does this means? It means that allow the data to be converted. That means first you are allowing the data to be converted. That means the data that is coming from client, which is in decoded format, it is allowed to encode. So we are allowing it to encode. Encode into which format? Actually, who is this URL encode? Actually, it is using a body parser. Body parser. Earlier, what we used to do is we have to install a library. We have a library called body parser. We should install that library, import the library, and use that library. But now body parser is internally available with Express.js latest version. That's the reason we directly use it. So, and after allowing encoding, that encoded data must be converted into which format? JSON. So, app.use, app.use, we have to define express.json. It will convert into JSON. This is mandatory to collect the data from client. If you are sending data to client, by default it is JSON. There is no problem. But you are collecting data from client, it will come from query string, it will come from form body, or it will come from cookies. The data need to be converted into JSON in order to send into the database. For that, we need to define URL encoded allowing to true and converting the data into JSON. This is actually the work of body. Even today, when you search for MongoDB connections in Google, you will find several examples shown with body parser library separate. Those you need to ignore now. Why? Because latest version of Express internally have a body parser. We have to use that. Another point, earlier we used to use callbacks, but now it is changed to promise, right? So you see now that is done. These are primary configurations for an application. Now we need to create the routes. Let's create the routes. API routes. We will create the API routes. And one more we will use. Regularly we need a connection string. So what we will do? We will create a connection string. connection string. What is the connection string? MongoDB : /1270001 27017. Because reading, inserting, updating, deleting, everywhere we need connection string, I stored in a variable. Okay, let's create the routes. First, we will create a route to access the data from the database. In the our database is to do React. In to do React, there is a collection called TBL users. From that, we will get the users and display the users. So, how do we do that? App.get. What is the path? Path is users. I will just give users. And what it has to do? We need two objects. One is request, another response. And through response object, we need to we need to send the data. First, how to connect? That means when anybody requests this users, we should connect with database, get the data and send the data to the client. So how to connect? We need a Mongo client dot connect. That means here we need a Mongo client dot connect. Connect with what? Connection string. We have a connection string design. And dot then it uses a client object. And what this client object will do? It will recreate database. Through client object DB method, we can access the database called to do React. That is our database which is already present. Now through database, we need to access the collection. What is the collection name? TBL users. And we have to find all the records and convert them to array. And to array will use a callback function, means we'll use a promise, then it will collect all the documents. Those documents we need to send as a response to client. That means using response object send method, we will send all the documents. After that, response dot what? End. That is how we need to configure the request. So this is done. That means we created one request which is going to communicate with the database, get the data and return the data. Okay, let's start the app. App.listen. Listen on some port number. I will give the port number as 3200 something. That is the port number. And console.log, just status I will keep server started. So http :/1270001 : and 3200. That is the port number I defined. Okay, let's run this and see. So we will open this node API and server started at this location. Now, when you are testing a get method, you can test it from browser. That means browser allows you to test the API method called get, but it will not allow post, put, delete, because in the URL, whatever you type and hit enter, it will be treated as get. Then you cannot test post, put, delete like methods. Then what developers usually do is, so to test API requests, you have to download web debuggers. Like we have web debuggers like Postman, like Fiddler, like Swagger. These are different API testing tools. You can use so many debuggers are there. We can use any debugger. Postman, Fiddler, Swaggers, these are all different. Web debuggers, these are required to test the APIs. Actually, get method you can test in browser, but post, put, delete like methods you cannot do that. So you need to handle by using these debugging tools. You can download and install Postman, which is a web debugger. That means we can just download that web debugger here. So you see get method we can test directly. How? http://127.001:3200/ what is it? Users, and it is going to get the data and show. So that means from client you are requesting, it is communicating with database, getting the data from the database, and it is showing. This is the complete API actually. Now what you can do, you can download tools like Fiddler. I have Postman. This is Postman app. You can download this Postman app on your PC. So this is the Postman app, and it is very popular for testing the API methods. So in this Postman app, you can, this is Postman app. In this Postman app, click on new button, new request button plus. And here, what is the request method? Get, post, put, patch, delete, get, and what is the URL? http:// so 127.001:3200/ what is it? Users. And after making this and click on send button, then it will get the data and it will show the data here. That means it is returning the data of that particular. This is usually how we can test our APIs, because this is the correct location for testing APIs for a developer. He can track everything, what is happening, what kind of data is coming and all. Not in browser actually, right? So browser can allow only get request. Okay, now let's create post method. That means user will fill a form and he will submit, and we have to collect the new data and insert into database. That is like registration, right? Now we will create. I will stop this and let's go to the design. Now we need to create. So a post method app.post. And what is the post method? This is like register user. That is the post method. What this method have to do? Request and response. This method have to collect the data from the client, and from where the data will come. Data will come from the form. And how form will submit the data? You know that form have two methods, get method, post. Can we submit data on get request? We can. Already in HTML, you know that we can submit data on get request, but it is not safe. It is in query string. When you submit data on post request, it will be in form body. So what you are expecting from the form? First, we will create a user. And what user contains? So user ID. User ID, we have to collect the user ID from the form. That means in the form also, we will have same name fields, because with which data you have to communicate, same name fields you have to define. So through request object, we can request the form body. And in the form body, you will have a field called user ID. That means from the form body, collect the user ID and you assign to this user ID. Okay. Next username. Same request dot body dot what is it? User name. Next password. Password is request dot body dot password. Next email. Email is request dot body dot email. What is next? Mobile. So request dot body dot mobile. Okay, this is the data we collected. After collecting the data from the form body, we have to insert into database. Then what we have to do? We have to use Mongo client. Mongo client dot what? Connect. Mongo client is already there globally. Connect with what? Connection string. We need to connect with the connection string, and then we have to use a client object, and through client object we will create a database. And what is that? So this is client object DB method. What is the database name? Database is to do React. Okay, on that database, which table you want? Database dot collection. What is the collection name? Collection name is what? TBL users. What you need to do into it? We need to insert one. Which one? User. That is the object we designed. Insert that user. And after that, then it uses a callback, which will just put a confirmation console.log user registered. That is the message I am giving. After that, just you put response dot end. That is the response. We don't actually in our UI, we will show a confirmation registered successfully. Please log in now. All such we will create in the UI. Currently, this is just server side logic. In server side logic, we are collecting the data from the form and we are inserting. But actually, there is no form. Then how you will post? There is no form. We haven't designed any UI for this. Then how you will post? Now debugger will help us. That means what you do? Now run this again. Now we have two requests created. One is get, another one is post. Now go to your API. This is the debugger. In the debugger, what is the method? Method is what? Post. And what is the URL? Register user. And into register user, we need to send some data. Then how to send the data? To send the data here, you can see there is a body option. Click on body. In the body, from where you have to test URL encoded. We return URL encoded data, right? In our logic, URL encoded. So what is the data? You can test the data here directly. Key. What is the key? User ID. Okay. What is the value? So value is already we have a John. Suppose Sam underscore some underscore some HYD something. Okay. Now what is username? Username Samson something like this. Okay. What is the password? Password is so Sam at the net 11. Okay. What is the email? So Sam at outlook.com. Okay, what is his mobile? Mobile is some plus 91 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 digit number. Okay, now after defining this, just click on send. And when I click on send, you can see that so the request successfully completed. So the request is successfully completed. Once the request is successfully completed, actually here user registered confirmation came. right? User registered confirmation is here. You can go to the database in TBL users. You see two details are there now. That means the record is added into it successfully. This is how we can read the data and insert the data. Now we have another method also working. That means what is another method? Get. And what is that method? Users. Users. And click on send. It will get the users and it will display the data. That means in the result, where is this result? Yeah. This is the data. And it is having two details. It is showing those two details. Accessing the data and showing it. So we have successfully designed. This is only for one table. So we will create a complete database design. That means I will show you the complete project design now. First, if you know all the operations, then we can create a project design. So we are aware of two techniques now. That means we are aware of reading the data and inserting the data. Now, how you will update the data? I need to update the data. Updating data is nothing but we have to collect the user. What is unique in user? Unique in user is user ID. And we will design our logic in the front end in such a way that if anybody tries to register with same ID, we will give him a warning that ID is already taken, try something else. So there is no chance that same name user ID will be there. So what we need to do, we need to update the user details like his email or password or something we need to update. Then how do we write an update logic? How do you create a API for update? For that we need a method app.put. So what are the HTTP methods? Get for fetching, post for submitting, and put for modifying. If you are modifying the details, what is the HTTP method? Put. If you are modifying only a specific data, then patch. You are modifying many details, it may be any, then better use put. Only one data, specific data you are modifying every time, then you can use a patch. So you are modifying many details, then better you use a put. Okay. What is the method? So slash, what is the method? It is edit user. Edit user is the method. Okay. Which user? Which user you need to edit? His user ID we need. That means a unique reference we need. That means it requires a parameter. And the parameter is user ID. User ID. That means now what we need? We need a request and we need a response. Now, the first point is here. What is the update command? Update command, how you define it? So Mongo client dot what? Connect. Okay. Connect with connection string. Connection string. Okay. Then we will create a client object. And through client object, we can access a database. Client object DB method. We have database. What is it? To do React. To do React is the database. And in the database, we need a collection. And the collection name is TBL users. And in that, we need to update one. Update one. And update one requires a find query and an update query. We learned the command in the last session. So find query, update query. What is the find query? I need to find the record which is matching with the user ID. Whose details you want to edit? Whose user ID is matching? So what is the query? User ID is matching with request.params.user ID. That means in the parameter, we will pass a user ID. If it is matching with that particular user ID, get his details. And in that, what we need to update. That means how to update, how to write an update query. You learned that you need a dollar set. Am I right? $set. Set requires a query. Here, what are the details you need to update? I need to update user ID. User ID coming from where? Request dot body dot user ID. That means again it is coming from form. Edit also a form. You will open a edit form. In that you will allow changes and you will allow save. That means it is a form. Another one is username. Username is also coming from same. What is it? Request dot body dot username. Next, what? Password. Password is coming from same. What is it? Request dot body dot password. Another one is email. Email is coming from request dot body dot email. Email. What else? So mobile. Mobile is coming from request dot body dot mobile. So these are all the details we are collecting and updating. So dot then we will put a callback function and it will put a message console.log. It will put a message. So the message is user details updated. And after that, we have to use response.end. We need to define this. Now the update query is also ready. So we have the update query ready, which will collect the data and update the data. So the update query is also ready. Now let's run this and see put is ready. That means I will run this API again. Started. Let's go to our Postman and here we want to update the details. Suppose I want to update the Samsung email address. Suppose I want to give email sam_hyderabad@outlook.com. So I want to change the address or something. Then what we will do here, we need to use the method. Which one? Put. Request method is important to change. Okay, what is this URL? URL is what? Edit user. And what is the user ID? Slash user ID you have to pass. User ID is what? Sam_HYD. That is the user ID, right? And because currently you are testing in a debugger, later what happens when you click edit button, his user ID will be automatically collected in the form, right? Now we will go to body. In the body, we need to add new details now. That means for this Sam Hyderabad, what we want to change, I want to change the email. Email is sam_hyd. Some here I define like msn.com. Some change. I want to change his password also 112. I want to change the mobile number as 30 something. And I will click on send. I will click on send. And you can see user details updated. And let's go here itself. You can test how you can test. So you can test the get method now, na? Right? You can test the get method. So what you do? So you can use, yeah, you can use the get method and here you can test what is it users and send and the details will come and the SAM details are updated here. That means his email and his mobile and other details are updated. That means we are modifying the details. Let's go to the database. These are the previous details we are having. Once refresh, then you will see the new details are added into this. That means we are able to modify the data. And this is update query. And I want to remove the user. Right? Remove the user means, so how you will remove the user? That means one more logic you need to define here. What is it? App dot what? Delete. Delete. So here we will use delete user. And what is the user ID? /:, what is it? User ID. So we have a request and a response. And how do you do this? Same. We need a Mongo client dot connect. Connect with what? Connection string dot then you need a client object. And through client object, we can access the database where database is equal to client object DB and to do React. to do React, that is the database. And database dot collection is what? TBL users dot what? Delete one uses a find query. And what is the find query? User ID is matching with request dot params dot user ID, and dot then a callback function, and it will return a message. So console.log user deleted, that is the message, and the response dot end. The same concept we will use for appointments also. That means, what about appointments? We can add appointments, we can modify appointments, we can delete appointments, we can read appointments. For that also we will write the logics, but this is delete operation ready. So now what we will do here is run this again. Okay, now let's go here, and here what we are doing, we are selecting the method as delete. And which one to delete? So this is delete user slash user ID. Suppose John underscore NIT. We want to delete that user, and click on send. The request is sent here, and once the request is sent, you see here user deleted. And let's check in the database, refresh. Now only one user is there, only one record is there. That means all the CRUD operations are working fine. Now we need to build a UI for this. That means in React, we need to build a UI, and UI uses all these URLs. That means, what is our API URL now? Our API URLs are http://127.0.0.1:3200/ that is users. This is for what? Get. Similarly, for post, for put, for delete, all URLs are ready. Now React have to use Axios. Through that it should communicate with this URL. That means we need to build a UI where user can register, user can log in, user can modify his details. Now we will create a complete interface for the project. That means we will create a complete interface for project. So this is the concept to understand how the methods are created for handling CRUD operation. This is example for CRUD API methods. And this is the CRUD API methods example. This is the CRUD API methods. And we given in API.js. So you need to first try this. Once you do this, now build the complete project. That means now we are aware of database, we are aware of API. Now we need a build database. So we will understand our project first. That means, what are the modules, what are the functionalities required, we will understand. Then according to that, we will build the app, including the front end now, right? That we'll see in next session. First, you need to try all this. Once you can do this, now we are going to build the project. And if you can do a first level project, second project, we will do little complex. In that 50% I will help, rest you have to do. Because if I do everything, no use, right? You need to put your effort in there. First one I will show completely how to handle. Second one, you have to try by yourself, right? So then tomorrow, no session, again we will continue on Monday. Okay, Monday we'll see.